Hello and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin English, founder of The Silver Edge. Our mission at The Silver Edge is to inspire men and women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond to live their strongest, healthiest, most fulfilling lives. In this podcast, we share stories of amazing individuals who are doing just that, to help motivate you to become the healthiest version of yourself, regardless of your age. And now, on to today's podcast. Hello, my guest this week is Helen Fritsch. Helen is a 63-year-old lifelong competitive athlete, a flight attendant, a certified personal trainer, an IFBB bodybuilding pro, a certified wine specialist, a cancer survivor, and host of the Age is Irrelevant podcast. Helen is also a published fitness model and writer, and has been featured in magazines such as Oxygen, Define, Center Stage, Upfront, and Max Sports and Fitness. Recently, Helen was chosen to be an elite ambassador for Oxygen Fitness magazine. Helen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me. I'm honored.
My pleasure. Well, we certainly want to talk a lot about your bodybuilding and your career, but let's back up a little bit and tell us what you were like as a child. Were you active as a girl?
Yes, I was very fortunate. Both my parents were athletes. So growing up, I was the oldest of three. And they drug us out every single weekend. And along with that, too, my dad worked for Texas Instruments, and he was a troubleshooter for the company. And so every 2 or 3 years, we would move. And we started off in Dallas, and then we moved over to Europe, over to Germany. And when we lived in Germany, there was no TV. We didn't have a TV. So we had to come up with stuff on our own. So my brother and sister and I, we were always outside for hours and hours. We had a big forest behind us and running and playing. And then my parents were big in tennis, my dad basketball. We learned how to play golf and very, 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 very active. And so my dad was an elite athlete in college. He played basketball and ran track, and he even qualified for the Olympics and track and field. But I just aspired to be like him. I was just in awe of all his medals and trophies and scrapbooks. And I just thought, well, as soon as I get old enough, I'm going to join my first team. And when I was in junior high, I immediately joined the basketball team, and I was a cheerleader. And then in high school, I jumped over to track. And today I'm so envious of all these kids because they have so much more knowledge than we had way back then. They have all this nutrition and all the strength and conditioning coaches and just so much out there on the internet. And we didn't really have anything. We practiced, and I was naturally a gifted runner. I, did my fair share of running and practicing, and my dad would have me out there on weekends running also too. But we ate pretty bad. I mean, just think about all the junk food that you ate, and I kind of shudder, Spam and Salisbury steaks and, ho-hos and Twinkies and, all that stuff. But I was like a little stick figure. My metabolism was so high. I ran track and cross country. I played basketball and tennis. I lettered in 4 sports in high school. And we were state champions several years while I was there. I went to college at University of Kentucky, and I ran track there. And so it was just ingrained in me. It was just part of my life. And even when I got out of school, and I, jumped in on the aerobics, step classes and jazzercise and all that stuff. I just kept up with all of that. And that took me into my 20s and even into my 30s and even 40s. And I, at one point, I just, continuously worked out, but I mainly worked out to be able to eat and drink freely, just because it was just easier that way. So that took me probably up to my 50s. And I was in good shape, but I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be 50. I'm 55. I'm going to be 60 here shortly. I want to get into the best shape of my life. And I started asking around and found out about bodybuilding. And I was really curious. And everyone was saying, well, you see all those people in the magazines, all those fitness models, they have a very strict diet. This is what they do. And I'm like, well, I want to look like them. And then when I started delving into it deeper and found out that, you're prepping for a show 12 to 18, 16 weeks out, and your diet's really strict and, there's no alcohol. Well, one of my hobbies is wine. I'm a certified wine specialist, and I was working at a wine and chocolate shop at the time and drinking wine, sampling it every day and eating chocolate. And I thought, I can't give that up. So I literally shelved it for about 6 months. And then the universe kind of took over and had different plans for me. And I walked into the gym one day to train with a friend who was actually a bodybuilder and was consistently trying to tell me that I should try this bodybuilding. And she was training a client, and the client asked me if I was one of her, clients. And I said, no. She goes, oh my gosh, well, you should try bodybuilding. You have the perfect body for it. And then my friend Linda said, there's a show in a month. You can do it. Well, of course, now I laugh because you cannot get ready for a show in a month. But I didn't know back then. And I said, I'm going to do it. And so I cut everything out cold turkey. I started eating really clean. And the body is such a fascinating, amazing piece of machinery. Literally within a week, I started seeing changes. And then in 2 weeks, I was like blown away. And so I jumped on stage at 56 with these little 35-year-olds in bikini and in a show, and I came in third. And then I liked it, and so I decided to do a big national show a couple months later, and I came in third in that. And then all of a sudden, I was just kind of addicted to the lifestyle. I love structure, and I just liked being able to be told what to eat and get these workouts. And 4 years later, on my 60th birthday, I won a big national show and I turned pro. And so actually my birthday's next week. And so I'm a pro for 3 years now, and I'm still competing. I'm prepping for a show right now at the beginning of September. And I chuckle and laugh about, how much longer am I going to compete? Who wants to see a 63-year-old up on stage parading around in a thong bikini? But I still love it. And as long as I continue to see improvements in my physique and it's not a chore and it's a joy, I'm going to keep on doing it. And I've made the most wonderful friends along the way and learned a ton of information about diet and training and nutrition and all that stuff. So it's just a win-win for me.
That's a great story, and certainly it's representative of your motto that age is irrelevant, right? You're doing this because you love doing it. You have no plans of stopping, and you're still you're progressing in this. I'd like to back up a little bit because you said a couple of things there in that story. I just want to unpack a little bit. You mentioned that you're a wine specialist.
Mm-hmm.
When did you become a wine specialist, and how does one become a wine specialist?
So I was not really a big drinker at all. I mean, I was in high school, like perfect. I was just like this very, very well-known athlete. And I just, really valued my reputation, I guess I could say. And I didn't want to let my coaches down. So I was pretty straight and narrow. And then when I went to college, I joined a sorority, and then I joined, we would go to these, parties, and I'm like, okay, well, just give me a beer and I'll just hold on to it, and I would take a sip here and a sip there. Well, after a year or two of taking a sip here and a sip there, then I just started, liking and enjoying beer. So I was a beer drinker up until probably my late 40s, early 40s, probably early to mid 40s. And then all of a sudden, I was like, wine's out there. And I think a lot of times now that I'm into the whole wine scene, people will start off with wine and they can't acquire the taste of these dry wines right off the bat. So they start sweet and they kind of progress and work their way up. And that's what I kind of did. And I would still continuously try some reds, but I just didn't like it. And so I ended up opening up a little one-man show catering business. And so I love to cook. And so I'm a flight attendant, so I'm able to fly for free. So I started flying out to California to take all these cooking classes out there in Napa Valley. And in between classes, I thought, I should just go to some of these wineries and just kind of check things out. And all of a sudden I walked into this one winery and I tried a red and I go, I love this. And then that kind of put me on the red trail. And then so I started looking for wines that were similar to that. And then I just started acquiring a taste for wine. And then I just became more knowledgeable and started doing all this research. And then I decided to get my certification. And so I got my level 1 certification through an organization called the WSET, the Wine and Spirits Educational Trust. And then I got my second level certification. And then after that, I actually took a leave of absence from work flying, and I I moved out to Oregon and I worked at a winery for 2 years as a wine intern and literally learned every aspect of winemaking. It was the most physically grueling manual labor I've ever done in my whole life, but extremely rewarding. And I lived such a simple life out there. The people were phenomenal. The weather was spectacular. The scenery was just amazing. And so that's my whole wine thing. And I still love wine to this day. And of course, I'm very regimented now. So, during this prep, I may have a glass of wine here and there, maybe. But when I'm probably like a month out, and all of a sudden that all stops. But yeah, wine is very near and dear to my heart, and that's something that quarantine or anything else that's never going to stop. So
Yeah, that's great. I didn't realize there were level one, level twos, just similar to like nutrition certifications
it
or
is.
personal
Mhm.
fitness or trainer
There's
certification.
actually
Yeah.
there's actually two more levels. There's no way that I'll be able to become a sommelier because I have allergies, and so if you're a sommelier, you really have to have the nose of a bloodhound, and I just don't have that. So I'm not even going to try to go down that go down that alley. But yeah, it's awesome.
Well, that's great. It's something you're still obviously passionate about today,
Hmm.
and that's obviously a lifelong hobby. You had mentioned going back in your biography here a little bit. You mentioned that after college, you kind of got into the aerobics thing, right? And you were doing that primarily. It sounds like just to be healthy and to be able to eat and maybe drink what you wanted. Were you? Is that when you became an instructor during that time, or were you just taking these classes? When did you become a certified personal trainer?
I was actually just taking classes. I wasn't. I was in my late mid 20s, I think, when all that started. And then I ended up getting married, and then I ended up getting divorced. And I tell you what, working out saved me, literally just saved me. If it wasn't for working out, I'm not even really sure I would be here today because it was a very, very um, painful divorce. So it actually, gave me incentive to go to the gym because I knew once I finished with my workouts, I just felt so much better. And I was there with, a group of friends and stuff like that. So the camaraderie really helped me, and it totally helped my mindset. I think there's so many of us out there, men and women, who are crippled by what goes on in their mind. We can be our biggest cheerleader, we can be our worst enemy, we can talk ourselves into or out of things, we can label ourselves as victims and martyrs. You do have a choice. You can be a victim or a martyr, or you can be a warrior or a champion. I mean, that's kind of like how I live, and I don't choose to be a victim or a martyr, regardless of what is thrown my way. And if I wouldn't have gone through all that back then, I wouldn't be where I am today. It was the whole divorce thing was crippling. I became very codependent, and I just lost my identity. It was awful. But working out helped me, and I actually packed up and moved away from Kentucky to North Carolina, and started over on a new job, new career, everything. And it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. And if someone said, if you could go back and change anything, would you? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't be where I am today with all those things that happened. But my personal training actually started. I got certified in the early 90s. And so I did that gig on the side also, which I loved. But then it just became too cumbersome for me because you have to continuously every year keep up with your education, and nothing was local. So I'm having to fly, thousands of miles and spend money in hotels and courses and this and that, whatever. So I ended up just letting that lapse, which of course I'm, kind of angry at myself today that I did that, but it is what it is.
And then the bodybuilding comes around. You said you did your first show when you were 56,
Mhm.
and I guess the story goes you showed up a little early for a training session,
Mhm.
and there was a posing coach there. Why don't you talk to folks who might not be familiar with bodybuilding, what a posing coach is, and what goes into preparing for a show? I know you've briefly mentioned strict diet, but why don't you talk to us about that runway leading up to a show, those couple of months? What does it take to get prepared to have your body to be in that kind of shape? And then what actually do you do? What is posing? What might that look like?
Yeah, sure. So normally, for most people, it takes like 12 to 16 weeks to prep for a show. And, we all have different body types, we all have different metabolisms, and we all have different goals. And so that has to be taken into account. So, the best thing, what I suggest and what I did, at first, that first month when I started prepping for the show, I was just relying on my girlfriend and a couple of other friends to help me. So I really felt like I was a rat in a maze. I was just going down one road, and then there was a dead end, and I'd have to go back and because I'd be like, can I eat this? No. Can I do this? No. So there was all this back and forth stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. After my first show, I hired a sports nutritionist, and she really reeled me in and got me, totally on track with my diet, which was awesome. And then I did a show, and I came in third in that show. But then I realized I needed a coach. I needed a strength coach and like a strength and conditioning coach and a nutritional, coach all in one. So I hired somebody else to help me with that. And he did help me with my diet and with my training. And then, normally when you have a coach like that, you have to check in every week. So he'll give you workouts. He or she will give you workouts. You'll do these workouts during the week. They'll prescribe you a specific diet. You follow the diet depending on your body type and what you're trying to achieve. And then after that week or two, you're going to go in and you're going to get looked at in your bathing suit normally. And then they may measure you, they'll weigh you, and, they start comparing data, like before and afters. And if something's working, you just continue down that path. And if something stalls or is not working, then you kind of reevaluate. And so basically that's how you prep for a show. Now, it all leads up to this big presentation. So you've been training for these shows for like 12 weeks, and then all of a sudden you're on stage and you're in front of the judges for 60 seconds, pretty much. I mean, if not a little bit, maybe a little bit more. But it's really, really can be very, very stressful because you've done all this training. And it's all about the whole kit and caboodle, basically. It's like the entire package. I mean, not only do you have to look good as far as your body composition, but you have to show good stage presentation. So, the color of your suit, does it match the color of your hair, the jewelry that you have on, are you tanned properly, the shoes that you're wearing. So they all take into consideration all that. But then it's how you enter onto the stage and how you present yourself to the judges. And that's what the posing comes in. And it's a posing routine. So for me, being in my 50s for my first show, they had these 5-inch, clear shoes. Oh my gosh, I'm not used to wearing 5-inch, shoes. So that's probably the hardest thing for most gals when they, start posing, is that you're supposed to sashay on stage with these 5-inch heels and twirl around and, but basically what it is that you end up, with your posing coach, you develop a posing routine, and then you'll practice this over and over. And what you want to do is present your best features to the judges. Now, because all of us aren't perfect and we all have flaws, but there's certain ways that you can stand and twist your body and the ways that you can turn so you somewhat hide your flaws. Or if you have really great shoulders, let's say, there's certain ways that you can really present your shoulders. Or if you have great abs, you can do the same. So it's just all a matter of timing and coming out on the stage. And you really have to show confidence, and you have to show some sass, and you're smiling, and you want to show to the judges that you're happy to be there, and because you want them to be engaged. They want you to show them how much you want to be there, and that how you should be in that top 5 call out, that, this is why I'm here. I've trained all this time, pick me because I'm the best gal here. So it's all a matter of, and I don't want to use the word arrogance, but you have to be a little bit that way, just because you want to get on the stage and you're marching out there and you're smiling, and then you're presenting your, normally with amateurs, it's probably a 20-second routine. With the pros, for us, you can be out there for as long as you like. So, but normally most girls are out there maybe for a minute at the most. But normally you'll come out there as an amateur and by yourself to do your posing routine, and then they'll call everybody back up for comparisons. So you're all standing in a row, and then they're going to be able to compare you side to side and who looks better. So it's an interesting process, but and all the judges are looking for different things. I mean, and depending on different parts of the country too. Some people like a softer look, some people like a harder look. So now that we've all gotten to know who the judges are, we kind of know when I'm doing a show, I'm like, oh, so and so is judging. I know what she likes, so we have to really work on this. So, but posing is huge. You might have an amazing body, but if your posing routine sucks, I've seen girls who have looked the best up on stage and they placed, towards the bottom because their posing routine was so bad. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand what goes into that. They see the picture, and obviously you're in fabulous shape. You're strong, and when you're posing and you're flexed out, looking great. But I think that people, they might think to themselves, yeah, that you have to have some confidence, obviously, to be on stage in heels and in a bikini and in front of people. But certainly, I've seen people working with their posing coaches, and it's quite rigorous. I mean, it's not. You think you're just going to go up there, turn around and flex your muscles and you're done. There's a lot more to it, right?
Oh, a whole lot more. And after I'm getting ready to start working with my posing coach, and I have to tell you, after a session of working with your posing coach for an hour, you leave there and you are so sore because you're twisting your body and you're straining your back and you're popping your butt out and doing certain things that you normally don't do on an everyday basis. But you really have to concentrate on getting into the right position and then holding that pose. And you might be up there in your comparisons while the judges are making decisions. You could be standing up there for a good 20 seconds in that pose. And it really is, you have to just kind of, program your muscles into doing that. So, but, it's just like anything else. If you practice, then it's easy. I mean, my first time on stage, I was like a deer in the headlights. I was like, oh my, I was, scared to death. Now I don't get jittery. I don't get nervous. I'm just like, I just want to get this over with, so just get me up there and get me out there and keep me going.
You mentioned that I think you said you won your pro card on your 60th birthday. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, certainly, two things. Tell us what it takes to get a pro card and what that means. And then maybe walk us through that day. That had to be pretty spectacular, I would guess.
It was. And so when you start bodybuilding, you start out as an amateur, and there's a lot of local amateur shows all over the country. I mean, I live in Charlotte. There are several here. There's several around in like South Carolina. There's a big show coming up this weekend, I believe, in South Carolina and Columbia. But you have to qualify for nationals, which means that you have to place in the top 5. So once you place in the top 5 in a show, then you're qualified for a national show. And there's a handful of national shows that you can go to. So once you qualify, then you'll hit a national show. So that's what I did. And I did come in, I'm not really sure back then. I think I came in 3rd in this one show. It was out in Seattle. So I came in 3rd. And so I qualified for nationals. So we get there that day and just excited. I actually did two different classes. So I did bikini and I also did figure. And figure is one step above bikini where you're just a little bit more muscular. And I was excited because they had just opened up a 60 plus category. And literally the year prior, when they opened up this new category, I went to my coaches and I said, there's a 60 plus category for the Masters Nationals next year. And I'm going to enter it and I'm going to win. And that was my goal the entire year. People talk about vision boards and talk about visualization. I looked at that. I had all these things on my back door going into my garage. And every single day, 2 or 3 times a day, I would see this and I would have pictures of trophies and winner and this and that. And so, I mean, it really, really, to help visualize. And so, that morning you get up, you're normally getting up between 3 and 4 in the morning because the shows are so big. This show had over 1,000 athletes. So you have to get your makeup done and you have to get, your spray tan spruced up. So you're up super early and, you can get a little jittery. Of course you do. Just waiting. But, I just went out there and just, did my best and came back. And then I ended up, placing 3rd in bikini. And then I placed 1st in figure. So it was a double for me, a double win for me. So, needless to say, lots of wine and chocolate cake were consumed.
Yeah, you had earned it
At
by then,
night.
right? I
Yeah.
imagine you were
So
abstaining for quite some time before that. So,
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, it was. I mean, probably the best birthday gift I've ever had. It was awesome.
it sounds like it. So you have to place first, second, or third in a national show to get a pro card. Is that how that
Oh,
works?
you have to win.
You have to win.
You have to
Okay.
win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So on your 60th birthday, you win your division, and you've got your pro card. You've been a pro bodybuilder ever since then.
Hmm.
Talk to us a little bit. So it sounds like, they had these categories, bikini and figure. And in this particular national show, they had a 60 and over. But I know you've competed. You mentioned earlier that you were in a division with women 35 and older.
Hmm.
Are there standard age divisions, or is
Yes.
it different show to show?
It is different show to show. They have what's called an open division, so any age can enter that. And so normally you'll see gals in their 20s and 30s entering that show. Masters starts at 35, and then they normally go 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. And it just depends on the show, and it depends on the promoter and what he, wants to, promote for that show. So once I did that 35 plus show, I would just realize, okay, I'm glad I came in third, but I can't be competing against 20, girls 20 years younger than me, because I may look good, but I'm never going to look as good as them. So I mainly focused on doing shows over 40, 45. And now, I mean, I'm only doing shows over 50, because there's no sense in me, competing with girls, much younger, especially on the pro level, because we're out there, and a lot of Olympians are at some of these shows. So it's awesome to be able to hang out with all these fabulous women from all over the country who are all pros. But I'm just very realistic, so I'm just entering shows now that are 50 plus.
Okay, and you mentioned you've got a big show coming up here in Pittsburgh, and I take it, a national pro show, right?
It is. It's a Masters national pro show for yeah, all different divisions. So I'm going to do the 50 plus bikini. I have a couple of really good friends who want me to do it, and I thought, okay, I'll definitely do it. There's another show in Reno I'm going to do in October, and it's a 55 plus, which is even better. So I'm definitely going to try to do that show too. So it's fun. I mean, granted, it's summertime, and I really wish I could be sitting outside drinking a glass of red wine or a nice rosé or something, but I don't really, miss that. And, if I decide to have a glass of wine every now and then, I probably will. But like I mentioned earlier, once I get towards August, it's like all systems go now. I'm not training all this hard just to blow it, so.
So talk to us a little bit about your training. And I guess I should interject here. For people listening to this in the future, we're recording this in July of 2020. So we're right in the midst of the COVID-19.
Mm.
So talk to us a little bit about what your training looks like, how many days a week, and how many hours you're putting in, what types of work you're doing, and how has the COVID-19 affected that, since here in North Carolina, it's pretty limited access to gyms. So yeah, talk to us about that.
Well, you're 100% correct. So when I first started training, when I went into prep, nothing was open in North or South Carolina. So I relied mainly on YouTube. And, luckily for me, last fall, I took a bedroom upstairs, and I turned it into a workout room. I just tore up the carpet, put in hardwoods, bought a treadmill, a bench. I mean, I had several weights, kettlebells, Bosu ball, and tons of bands. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled that I have all this stuff, because I actually was, I was just working out in my own little gym. And, I'm a flight attendant, like I mentioned earlier. And then of course, the airline industry just tanked. So there was all these flight attendants that, the company didn't need. So I guess with the government bailing, us all out, they started offering leaves of absence. So I ended up taking a leave of absence for April, May, and June, mainly because I was diagnosed with leukemia 5 years ago. And my oncologist did not want me working out in that environment. So I ended up just taking those 3 months off. And that first month, I was, my little routine was get up in the morning and, have my breakfast and then go up to my workout room. And I would just take normally try to take a class for like at least an hour class. And or if I didn't take a class, I had tons of workouts. So especially for shoulders and back and stuff like that, it was very, very easy for me to get workouts in. The gyms in South Carolina did open up, and I lived pretty much right on the border of South Carolina. So I ended up joining a Gold's Gym down there. So it's 30 minutes away, but I am driving there 5 days a week. And just to get my workouts in now, just because I am training for the show. So I do need a little bit heavier, especially when it comes to legs. So an average day at the gym for me today, I lifted for an hour and 15 minutes. And then I'm getting in right now 25 minutes of cardio. And I'm doing that 6 days a week right now.
Wow, that's pretty big workload. And do you program for yourself, or do you have a coach that is giving you programs at this point?
I do have a coach. And so I have to check in with him. He makes me stay accountable because pictures don't lie. So I have to take pictures every week and send those in. And he, obviously it's not like in person, but it's definitely, they can go through things with a fine tooth comb, and they can actually see things that I'm not even seeing. He'll say, oh, well, you this, and this, and oh, you should consider this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're exactly right. So that's good. He's out in Phoenix.
Okay. So yeah, that's pretty common, I think, for remote online coaching, especially when you start getting into elite level folks. So that's quite a bit of volume. I'm guessing a pretty good amount of intensity. What do you do for recovery? What are your thoughts around recovery and sleep and everything that goes with that?
Recovery is major, and and nutrient timing is really, really important too. Pre and post workout. So I always make sure that I have a really good breakfast in the morning. I don't eat cereal anymore. Normally my breakfast in the morning is either chicken or turkey with maybe some sweet potato or another complex carb like millet or buckwheat groats, because they're gluten-free. I'm gluten-free. And then some type of green vegetable like broccoli or green beans. Actually this morning I did have egg whites and spinach, and then I had some millet this morning. But, post-workout, trying to get your nutrients in between 30 and 60 minutes prior, because just like your muscles are hungry also. And if you want your muscles to grow, that you have to, time it to feed them, in a specific, time frame. So my post-workout was, actually I had turkey this morning. I did have sweet potatoes. I had green beans, and then I had 2 ounces of avocado. And that was my post-workout meal. So I also do some supplements, creatine and branched-chain amino acids and glutamine. I'll pop those. I'll take those post-workout also too. And then sometimes maybe during my workout, if it's a leg day, I'll do like a carb powder, a little bit of carbohydrate powder and some water with some essential amino acids or some citrine malate or beta alanine, which also helps as far as muscle growth. So I'm all about trying to get this done as naturally as possible. And for me, being in my 60s now, it is a lot more difficult to put on muscle. So it's been a process. But it's working, and it's the whole bodybuilding thing, and even like with losing weight, you'll see all these people in the gym in January, and then in February they're gone. Changing your body, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and you have to be patient. Everybody in society today wants to go from A to Z, but they're missing out on the steps. And I always laugh saying, your body's not like Amazon. You're not going to get it in 2 days. So you really have to just be patient, but you will see progress. And then I think once you see that initial progress, then that kind of excites you and motivates you to continue, what you are doing. And that's why pictures are so great too, because I keep track of all my pictures and I can go back from my first day of prep to today, and I see differences. So you normally might not see that looking at yourself in the mirror every day, but it's great to keep, records of what you're eating and your workouts and stuff like that. So it truly does work. It's just a matter of mindset and determination, you know.
Well, it sounds like you have both of those dialed in along with your nutrition. I'm just imagining some listeners who might not be familiar with the bodybuilding world thinking, good grief, did she really just say chicken, millet, sweet potato, avocado for breakfast and for
Yeah.
and all this, those supplements and the timing. It's a lot of work, right? That kind of prep. What does your nutrition look like, say, after a show or between shows when you're not necessarily prepping? I'm guessing it's a little less strict, but how do you eat in between?
Right. So I still actually eat, pretty well. I mean, I'll still eat 80% clean. But then if friends want to go out for drinks or I want to go out to dinner or I go on vacation, I'm a big, cruiser. My family and I, we love going on cruises together. And, if it's a 7-day or a 10-day cruise or something, I mean, I normally can pick out pretty much what I want to eat, but I know that I'll be like drinking every day. But yeah, so everything's in moderation, so it's not like you go crazy. I mean, maybe like the night of the show when we're all finished, all of us will get together and we'll all go out and we'll order some nachos or onion rings, or we'll all have, cheeseburgers and stuff like and chocolate cake and stuff like that. But I got to tell you, I mean, once you get into this lifestyle of eating clean and then you eat bad for a day or two, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get back to my normal diet, because you're just like, ugh, you feel terrible. So I do enjoy it, and I'm a chocoholic. I love dark chocolate. So a lot of people will talk about like the quarantine 10 and 15 and 20 that they've gained, and I don't really get that, because you have to bring the food into the house to gain that weight. So for me, I don't bring that food into the house. So that way I'm just not tempted. I see it all at the store. I don't even want to go down the cookie aisle. I don't want to go down the candy aisle. I just don't need it right now, and if I get a cheat meal, for me, a cheat meal, my coach might say, I want you to have a cheat meal this week. Well, I'll go get like a bison burger with sweet potato fries, and I'll have a glass of, red wine or something. And that will be my, cheat. And then maybe I'll come home and have one little square or two of dark chocolate. And that makes me happy. I don't have to eat a whole bag of, something to whatever, but I just don't bring it in the house. If it's not here, I can't be tempted, because I wrote an article and it talked about willpower, and in the morning, it's all great. But as the time progresses and the day progresses, at night, our willpower is at its lowest. And that's when you start looking around for stuff to, munch on. I mean, if it's not in your house, then you're not going to be, tempted to do it.
That's a fantastic tip. Yeah, I think that the whole not having those quick, easy, crappy foods readily available it goes a long way towards keeping you on track and eating healthy. Let's going back to the recovery a little bit. What about sleep, especially as we age, and especially as you're working as intensely as you are? Is sleep important in your routine?
It's so important. I am a huge proponent of sleep. Sleep and hydration. I mean, sleep and water. I try to drink a gallon of water a day, and I normally try to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep in. And with me being a flight attendant, I fly overseas too. Obviously not right now, but I am such a huge proponent on sleep, and so I have to, get my sleep in to deal with these people. So I'm a huge proponent of sleep, and I highly recommend it. And for people to only go on 3 or 4 hours of sleep or 5 hours of sleep consecutively. Now, of course, we all may have a bad night of sleeping, or something's keeping us up at night. But I'm a great sleeper. I don't have any issues. I can fall asleep right away at 8 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock. Or there's times if I have to work overseas, I'm up all night, and then I don't get to my hotel till 6 or 7 in the morning. That's when I take my nap and try to play catch up here. But sleep is huge, and it's just like anything else. I mean, people will come to me and ask me, well, what's your secret, or what do you do to stay in shape or look the way that you look? Your skin looks smooth, or your wrinkles and whatever. It's like classic textbook to me. It's eat clean, exercise, stay out of the sun, hydrate, sleep. It's not you know, longevity, there's no quick fixes. If you want to live a nice long, life, you have to do resistance training. You have to, keep your heart, in shape with some good cardio. And that's why I'm such a huge proponent of this age is irrelevant, because I didn't start till I was 56. Now I was in, good shape prior, but that's another thing too. I was eating these things from the grocery store, just looking at the front of the label, and you can't look at the front of the label because that front of the label is there to entice you to buy it. You have to look on the back of the label, and it literally, if there's more than 5 or 6 ingredients on there, put it back, because half that stuff you can't even pronounce. You don't even know what it is, and then it'll say artificial flavors, artificial coloring. I don't want anything artificial, going in inside of me. So I'm a huge prep. I cook in bulk, and I'm always constantly, cooking. Prior to this interview, I just cooked a big batch of chicken, and I have a Instapot, and I threw in some broccoli and green beans for that. But I have a ton of food in my refrigerator at all times, and all I have to do is just pull it out, throw it on my scale, and then I'm good to go. So.
Yeah, that's another really good tip. If you have healthy food already available, in addition to not bringing junk food into the house and highly processed food into the house, if you've got food prepped that's easy to grab, that's a great tip for keeping folks on track. So I know you're a big proponent of mindset. I've read some of your stuff on mindset. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of mindset, just in terms of not so much of bodybuilding and shows, but just what you were talking about, having that long, healthy life of just taking care of the basics, the nutrition, the resistance training. Where does mindset fit in with all of that?
Mindset fits in. It's your inner core. It's your true values of what you think of yourself, and how you approach life. Like I mentioned earlier, you can have this champion, warrior approach, or you can have this victim mindset approach. And all of us deal with hurdles, and all of us deal with detours and heartache and pain and tragedy in our life. And it's going to probably happen more than once. And you're going to get knocked down, and especially right now, people losing their jobs, people becoming homeless. I mean, I feel very blessed that I still even have a job. But it's all about mindset. It's all about getting back up, and it's all about having that eyes always forward approach. I mean, for me, it's like, you're driving in a car, and the windshield is like, your future. Now, you do have rear view mirrors on either side, and you can kind of glance at those just to kind of as a reminder of what's back behind you. But don't keep your constant eye on that rear view mirror, because the past is the past. And, the past definitely helps make you who you are today. But so many people are stuck in the past, and they can't get out of, past experiences. They're literally crippled. And then then they just start self-sabotaging themselves. And I just think that's, crucial, that you really have to have an eyes always forward approach. And you really have to surround yourself with like-minded people. So when I first started this bodybuilding, gig, I met the most amazing women, and I have friends for life now who are just fantastic. That even though one's, in California and Seattle and Memphis and in Florida, we all still stay in touch, and we all still want to do shows together, and we get giddy when we see each other. But then if you're going through, I mean, like for me, you're never always up when you're in training. We get tired. If I'm flying and I'm up at 3 a.m, and then I get to my layover at 2 p.m, I know I have to get a workout in. Do I really want to run to the gym? No, I don't. And there's been times here where I've literally driven up to the gym and looked at it and put my car in reverse and just driven home. I'm like, I'm just not into it today. But having that, community or that tribe that can, enable you to, keep your eyes always forward, but also hold you accountable. I think a lot of people who have mindset issues are dealing with stuff on their own, and they're not reaching out to anyone to help them along. Because sometimes you just need that help, to get you going. So that's why I think it's really important to definitely pursue the things that you love and pursue the things that make you happy. And it doesn't really matter how old you are. If you want to try something new, I mean, my biggest thing is like, just jump, just give it a shot. I mean, the unknown is going to be out there. It is scary, but you can do it. And the universe always has your back. The universe doesn't want you to fail. I've jumped several times in my life, not knowing what was going to happen. And everything worked out, perfectly. I mean, back then when you're in the middle of stuff, you have to kind of wonder, but it's all just part of the plan. So, as long as you can take things on a daily basis versus, the big term right now is called future tripping, that you're like tripping out about things in the future already. I mean, worrying about things in the future is not going to help you today. You need to stay in the moment and worry about what's going on today. And then tomorrow you'll deal with tomorrow. So, and that's all part of mindset also too. So, my advice is just, try to stay focused on what makes you happy, because if you're not happy, you're not going to make anyone else happy. So, find your own joy from within, and then find that community that will help you maintain that joy. And don't be afraid to, try new things. It doesn't really, I've interviewed women on my podcast, 85 years old, who is a world champion pole vaulter. And, she didn't start training until she was 69 years old.
That's
So,
amazing. I love
yeah.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just, that's why I wanted to bring all these women onto my podcast to prove that. And a lot of these women have gone through incredible transformations, 100 pounds overweight, smoked and drank, did drugs. And now all of a sudden they're internationally ranked swimmers, and they're in their late 70s, and they're, winning gold medals at the senior games, so it's just, and it's all because somebody believed in them and they turned to these mentors for help. And then, once you start seeing that first little bit of success, whether it be losing weight or, mastering some type of activity, that just fires you up and it just keeps you going. So yeah, mindset is everything. I mean, none of us wake up in a great mood every day. And I'll wake up sometimes in a bad mood for no reason. And I'm like, okay, you're in this bad mood. You got to snap out of it. Just come on, get with the program. So.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I agree with you. Mindset is so critical. And I think it's important also what you said about it's not too late to start something. Somebody could look at your story and say, well, yeah, she was active as a child. She was obviously, a star athlete and has been active her whole entire life. But there are women out there like your 85-year-old pole vaulter. I had Dr. Maria Christine on my show. I know you had her on your show as well. She didn't start bodybuilding until 69, I think. And it's not like she was in great shape. She found that because she had to get into shape. So she started a fitness journey close to 70 and now is doing bodybuilding shows. I mean, it's amazing
right?
what people can do. Yeah. Right. It's not too late to start. Right.
I'm just so excited for her. Yeah. So I that's why I want to promote. I want to show other women out there that, it's not too late, because I think also too, a lot of women, I mean, once they become, so you're living your life and you're excited, and then all of a sudden, and you're excited to see what happens in the future. And then you hit 50, and then all of a sudden you're like dreading to see what's going to be happening for the rest of your life. And that's not the case. For me, each decade just keeps getting better, and I keep living my best life. I would never go back to my 20s or my 30s. My 40s, I finally started finding myself. 50s were great, 60s, better. I'm hitting hurdles and detours along the way. But just like with my leukemia, it's just a part of who I am, and it's just an added layer. I don't look at it as something, that's going to take me down. I don't look at it. I'm not a victim or a martyr, when it comes to that. And I really think my lifestyle and my attitude and my mindset are helping keep this at bay. And I think that's what's really important. But I think a lot of women may want to try something, but they don't know where to start or who to reach out to. So that's why I want to present all these women saying, hey, you want to reach out to them, they'll be more than happy to talk to you or help you along, or they've got programs and training and this and that, whatever. So there's no excuse.
Yeah, well said. So what would you say to somebody who maybe hears this or finds you on Instagram or Facebook and doesn't have any bodybuilding experience, but thinks that maybe this might be something they'd like to do? How would she get started?
Well, definitely. I mean, if that's the case, then I would truly recommend, trying to, if and when gyms open up, going to a local gym or reaching out to a personal trainer. And you can do this, at home, or you can do it online. As a matter of fact, I'm just getting ready to finish up a nutrition course to get certified as a nutritionist. My course is going to end, let's see, what's today, Wednesday. I'd say by the end of this weekend, early next week, I'll have my all my training under the belt. And I've also taken mindset courses too. And so I'm probably going to start coaching people myself. So you can find people online. You can also find people locally. But if you're dealing with someone who's never done this before, you really have to, first and foremost, make sure that these people understand that they are in this to see changes, which means that they're going to be stepping outside of the box and doing things that they've never done before. And you just want to make sure that they're mentally and physically prepared for that, because once you start lifting weights, and you'll start off, doing maybe 3 sets of 10 with light weights. But if your body's not used to that, you might wake up sore the next day. And if you like coming home and, you're a carb junkie, and then we're, cutting back your carbs, you might not like that because, you're, craving all these carbohydrates. So you really have to be, it's just like any other setback or any other type of, I don't want to use the word addiction because that's really kind of harsh, but if you're so used to something, until you're physically and mentally and emotionally ready to make changes, then, you're not going to. So if you're truly ready to, get in better shape or try something new or, lift weights, because going into a gym can be extremely intimidating, especially to a woman who doesn't really know what she's doing. I just highly recommend reaching out to somebody to give you a program and to guide you along the way. And then, you're consistently checking in with these people, and you're consistently, getting feedback, things that they like, things they don't like. They may have some, illnesses or injuries that you have to take into account. So it's a slow process, but it's a winning process. And no one has ever in my whole life said, oh my gosh, I started this workout program and I hate the way I look, and I feel horrible. That's just not the case. It's just, just the total opposite. So
that's also beautifully said. So certainly anybody who's looking to get into that, the first piece of advice is to find a trainer, find somebody who is a professional and can help you with programming nutrition, because there's a lot to unpack in there, right? And in this day and age, it's so easy to find folks either locally or, the entire world is open to you when you go for online resources.
Exactly. 100%.
Let's kind of wrap up here a little bit. Tell folks, where can they find you? I know you've got obviously the podcast. You're active on Instagram and Facebook. You've got a website. Tell folks where they can find you.
Thanks. Yeah. So my website is www.ageisirrelevant.com. All my podcasts are actually on my website. And I have a blog that I just actually started. And then I will be, like I mentioned earlier, starting some coaching services too. You can find me on social media, on Facebook at Helen Fritsch. It's HELEN, F as in Frank, RITSCH. And I actually have 3 pages on Facebook. But if you just go to that initial page, you'll be directed to my other pages. And then on Instagram, I'm at Helen Fritsch _IFBB Pro.
Great. And I'll drop all that in the show notes as well, so people listening can go and find you there.
Thank you.
Well, you look great. You're obviously a wonderful ambassador for healthy aging, and I certainly wish you all the luck in your future endeavors. And thanks so much again for spending time with us coming on the show today.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me. It was a joy.
Well, that's our show for today, folks. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends and please consider subscribing and giving us a 5-star review. All the show notes and much more are available at our website at silver-edge.com. That's silver-edge.com. So until next time, stay strong.